Hey, Resilient Dads. I wanted to share a great insight that I've recently had. I was playing with my son and he's obsessed with Spider-Man. And as we were playing with his figurines, I realized he had two different Spider-Mans. One was the blue and red one, and the other one was the black one. And it got me thinking about the hero's journey. Some of you may already be aware of it. The hero and the villain both had the same experiences. Both came from a world of pain, a place where they felt like as if life was constantly at them, like they were knocked down. But the difference between the two was one decided, because of what I experienced, I'm going to make sure that the world doesn't experience that. And the other one decided, because I experienced the things I did, I'm going to make sure the world does feel the pain that I did. So it was a mindset. That was literally the difference between the two. I ask you, what are you going to do when those voices come in your head? Because we all have it. We have the villain sitting on our shoulder telling us that we can't do something, or because we need to protect ourselves, so it's better to be safe. Or we have the hero that's saying your circumstances don't define your future. Your past does not define where you're going. That you've got this. So what are you going to decide to be? Are you going to decide to be the hero, or are you going to decide to be the villain and the victim of the circumstances in your life? Because we all have challenges in life, but we all have a choice on how we respond to circumstances. That's the only thing we have a choice on. For me, I had no idea what this show would become. With all the feedback that I've had and all the people who've reached out, it's really motivated me to continue to grow, continue this journey of impacting dads with our content. That the experiences that I've had that have led me to this journey, I'm going to make sure that it's a positive one. And I want to thank you for your support and encouragement, as I've gained so much knowledge from this. And I look forward to continuing this journey with you by bringing you thought leaders, experts, and real people with life experiences to add as much value as I can to you and dads around the world. On season 2, while we take you on a path of self-discovery, leadership to lead the people that are important in your life and prosper with a life of fulfillment by choosing to be the hero in your own journey. If you haven't already joined our Facebook group, please do, because if you're not, you're missing out. And as we wrap up season 1, I would like to take a moment to recap a few highlights. So let's take a look. I want to thank you again for all your support, and I look forward to continuing this journey with you to becoming the resilient dads that we deserve to be and that our kids need. And always remember, you're stronger than you think you are. Stay resilient.
I grew up in a very blue-collar family. My parents, they weren't able to send us to college. We didn't have money for that kind of thing. So as a young man, I was told very early, like, hey, you're going to have to work hard. You're going to have to do extra. You're going to have to go, further than most people want to go to get to the things you want to do. And my dad always set that example for us. Like, he worked 3 and 4 jobs. If I wanted to hang out with dad on the weekend, I had to go to the construction site, right? And work with him. He was an electrician. So we would run wire, drilling studs and helping the guys clean the construction site and all that stuff growing up. And that was kind of programmed into us at a young age. So by the time I got in the military, and I already had some coping mechanisms for the hard work has to happen and the time has to happen, right? He had a good upbringing, but it wasn't as good as what he was giving us, right? And he didn't do that to say, look what I'm giving you. He did it because he wanted to show us that no matter what you inherit, no matter what you have the opportunity to make it what you want it to be and to make it better. So his generation grew up, these guys were kind of hardcore. They weren't going to hug you and tell you they loved you, and they weren't going to kiss their sons, and they weren't going to do those kinds of things. And my dad made a point of being like, that bothered him growing up, that he didn't get that kind of attention from his dad. So, but he wasn't angry about it, but he decided to do something about it. So he made a point of telling us, like, hey, I love you and it's good to spend time with you. I had a day where I was sitting at the dinner table with my family, and my kids were young. They were like a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 6-year-old. And I had never been home longer than 6 weeks with them, like for years, right? For as long as they'd been alive. And I finally got off a ship and they sent me to college as my job, right? And I'm sitting there and I'm eating, and I just stopped eating. I was like, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be somewhere else. I started getting anxious. What I realized was my body was telling me, it's been 6 weeks. It's time to go. And I was just like programmed. I didn't even consider that. Now I had already left the ship. I had already checked out. I already like flipped it. Like I'm in a new job. But internally, my clock was still wired. It was like, time to go, time to do thing. And you have this coping mechanism that says, gotta go, turn it off, turn this on. And I wanted them to see like, hey, look, I don't just leave you. I leave you because I have to, because I can give us this really good life. But think about what I'm doing while I'm gone. You know, I get to do something that makes our life better, not just financially, but it makes our life more secure. And it's a unique opportunity to serve other people, serve our country, serve our family. But at the same time, look, dudes, you know, talking to my kids, you're the most important thing in my life. Even though I love my job, it's nothing compared to you guys. Like, you're my whole world.
Even if it's just learning kindness, guys, even if it's just learning to go for a walk, a little bit, and over time, all of a sudden, 6 months, listen, every person on this podcast can go back and think 6 months ago it was like that. 6 months ago was a blink. I'm seeing kids going off to college now that I literally had seen born. I'm going, where'd the time go? Imagine if you were adding 1% every day of just somebody who needed to start walking, stop drinking soda, go get healthy, started going to the doctor every quarter, whatever it may be, that 1% of something, to do something to contribute to your life, because this life is a gift. My father and I, he would always take me to work on the weekends with him and drive to the city. And he would talk to me. And as we drive to the city, he'd always tell me, he goes, son, he goes, don't judge anybody. Because I would look at people in the corner, being that kid from suburbia, going to the city, and I would be like, oh, look at this guy. He probably didn't go to school. Or this guy, he doesn't want to work. My father would go, hey, oh, you don't know his story. That's why he's got a story. You don't know him and what he's been through. Treat everybody with kindness, because everybody deserves dignity no matter what shell they walk in, right? Everybody deserves dignity. As far as businessmen out there, if you work your life away and focus just on business and not spend time at home, you're poor. You could be the richest man in the world, but I will promise you, you're poor. I had nothing, and I will tell you, my focus and goal, and my wife will tell you, it was my kids. Come the weekend, my kids. Whatever's going on, my friends, hey man, let's hang out, let's go drink some beers. Nah, man, I got my kids. Nope, it's kid time. So my life was just structured around my kids. The other thing, because I was trying to change the legacy, and I'm not bashing my dad, because my dad's a good dude. He really is. But he only knew what he knew how to do at the time when he knew how to do it. So again, for him, he didn't come to my sports. I don't miss any of my kids' school functions. You don't have to be a great dad. You have to be present. You have to be present. Because a kid, no matter what they're doing, if they're at a concert or an assembly or a chorus, when they get in those stands or they're on the bleachers up on stage, I can promise you, they're looking around. Where's mom and dad? Well, there they are. And remember that as a kid, guys? Hey, I want every guy to put this in their head. Remember that when you're looking for your dad and you see him or your mom, and there's that security blanket feeling in your heart that goes, I wanted my kids to feel it every time, because I knew what it's like not to feel that.
And I think that's really important to focus on, to be that example for your child. You know, do you want them to be in the same situation later on in life, whether it's in terms of parenting or whatever it may be? Like, do you want them to just focus on purely their circumstances and their pain and the past? Or do you want to be the example to them to show them how to be able to focus on a better future? And my message for today is that in terms of, I really hope that dads are able to focus on what they can and where they want to be, instead of where they've been and what's happened to them.
As a dad in that situation, it's easy to now feel shame to think I must be worth less because of the situations and circumstances that are happening are taking heavy doses of self-criticism. We are beating the shit out of ourselves. We are engaging in anger. we are engaging in blame and shifting the blame and trying to find some sort of answer as to whatever got you into that situation. It can feel really good to just blame something, but it's not going to get you anywhere if you stay there. That shame is self-inflicted and you don't have to live there anymore. Accountability does not have emotions. Accountability is numbers and tracking. And accountability is pure data. You can't change what you did in the past. As much as you try and run and hide from it, it doesn't change what you actually did. You know in your heart what you did. You know exactly what you did. And you can either accept it and own up to it, because the fruit does not fall far from the tree. If you're living in such a negative, constant state, you will not have positive results in your life. It does not happen, because where focus goes, energy flows.
Trying to teach my son a lesson, I was like reminding myself of a very important lesson, that keep going, stay on that in terms of battle beam, and learn, and in terms of see what you're doing and where you maybe could be improving on the things that in areas that you don't actually see because you're not focusing on that, and stop focusing on in terms of what the other person has in terms of stronger, or they have other resources, or whether it's money or wherever it may be. Just focus on improving yourself, competing against yourself, and eventually, just like that other person who started somewhere like I am, I'll get to where I want to go. Just have to keep going and not give up. Depression is the inability to move forward from the past and being able to see a brighter future. I remember that in terms of the times where I felt depressed through the experiences of becoming a single dad, not knowing in terms of what was going to happen in the future, the ability for me to have that contribution to my son's life. It was the times where I just purely focused on what was happening to me and in terms of everything that was happening or had happened, trying to understand why things happened the way they did, or why people acted the way that. I was in a state of constantly focusing on the past. And all that did was create toxic habits for me in terms of emotional eating, which then contributed to me having high blood pressure, and then bang, go back to the same habits of just focusing on everything that was wrong. I guess even myself, the times where I've been in so much rage where I lose control, that's one of the most fearful experiences that I can, have, and that does actually scare me. And then I realize that rage is due to a buildup of not releasing all these frustrations and emotions, and being able to let these emotions out. That's the best thing we can actually do. When you see the release and the experiences that these men go through to come on the other side, the transformation is unbelievable. Some of their own transformations, even in their perspectives or opinions and judgments of one another. That's amazing how that also transformed. We can make judgments of others, but not really understanding what their real journey is or story, which is really sad. But I believe if we can have the perspective of comoming open to trying to understand where the other person is actually coming through, whether it's even in relationships, co-parenting, or the challenges someone might be having as a parent.
I have two options. I can either end up like one of the guys in the documentary that is behind bars for the rest of their life if I go down the destructive path, or I might literally end up dead somehow, whether by suicide or because I, did something I shouldn't be doing. Or I can choose to put on battle armor and go to war against this sort of sin, or to go to war against these forces trying to hold me back. And what I used to do to survive is no longer serving me as an adult. It's not serving my employees. It's not serving my family. It's not serving my wife.
A lot of the times it's just been them seeking attention because they haven't felt that they've been able to get that from me. And that's been a real eye-opener for me, especially over these last couple of months, being able to connect with them on their level instead of seeking for them to come up to my level or my expectations that I had. So as the saying that, my mentor, Tony Robbins, always says, where focus goes, energy flows. And if we want to achieve anything in our life, we need to put in that time and effort and that focus and not be distracted, because dilution just minimizes the outcome that we can have.
We make a choice. So we go that way or we go that way. And at that day, my two choices were: do I continue down this path of self-destruction, where it would lead me to an early grave, or at that point in time, it was, do I jump off this hill that I'm standing on top of, or do I choose to change my life and be, understand that there's more to me than this. There's more to my life. I've got 3 kids. I've got a great partner. At that stage, a company, and there was so much more to it that I sort of went, no, okay, we're going to fight.
Yeah.
So that was sort of the turning point of my life.
You can't be brave without being vulnerable. Think about it. Everybody knows Medal of Honor winners in the U.S., right? Each one of them put themselves up, risk taking live fire. Many of them got shot and killed and were rewarded posthumously. But each one of them put themselves out there and said, here I am, right? Here I am for my brother. Here I am for my sister. They made themselves absolutely vulnerable. But we award them for their what? Their bravery, right? What I really want people to understand is to be vulnerable is to be brave. But I'm not saying be weak. There's no weakness, right? It's not about being weak. Weakness is something completely different. That's not being willing to step forward.
What you'll find is, I'm not just talking about my situation leaving Scotland, but for so many guys I've coached, you'll find it's almost like the whole world is against you. Everyone thinks it's a bad idea. Everyone's got a better perspective. But what really people don't like is they don't like people breaking their pattern. For whatever reason, people don't like it when a man says, hey, I'm going to go a different way. And so there's a ton of resistance internally and externally. You got to fight. But at the end of the day, I believe one of the most important things a man can do in his life is just keep a clear vision of where he wants to go. And more importantly, a vision of who does he want to be. What are the things that would keep a man grounded traditionally? So knowledge of his self, knowledge of his values. And that's part of vision, right? We talk about vision quest on a rite of passage. When you have a vision, what does that mean? To me, you have a vision of who am I? What are my values? What do I stand for? What will I fight for? What will I die for? Where do I draw the lines? There is a sense of how do I see the world and what is my relationship with it? If the world is a tree, am I a bird or a squirrel kind of scurrying along the branches looking for a nut? Or am I one of the leaves? That's a fundamental question every man should ask himself. There are other anchors that men traditionally would have. They would know their duties and responsibilities very clearly. They would know their culture. They would know their stories. There would be a defined identity given to them by their culture.